Hello, my name is Jocelyn Corrales Hurtado. I am a graduate student in the Masters of Teaching Elementary Education program, and this is my culminating action project for CME 705. I would like to start by saying that through my program, I have learned so many amazing things of what it means to be a great teacher. So, through my presentation, I will be talking about my journey as a child of immigrants, as a student in CCSD, my time through my program, and what I believe should be implemented to be a great teacher. My parents migrated to the United States in 1997 from Mexico. They crossed the border by foot with nothing but hope, prayers, and a thought of chasing the American dream. In Mexico, my parents lived impoverished. There was no opportunity for jobs, no money to put a roof over their heads, no opportunity to get an education, nothing. Coming to the US was the light at the end of the tunnel for them. They would finally be able to attain a sliver of success. To give you a bit of background about my culture and its gender norms, men are said to be providers and breadwinners, while women are said to be caretakers and nurturers. This plays a huge role in my upbringing. Let's continue. In 1998, my oldest brother Julio was born. Because of this, my dad began to search for a more stable job to raise his family. In the year 2000, I was born. In the year 2002, my dad finally had enough money saved up to buy a home. With the help of his white employer, he was fortunate to purchase a home in central Las Vegas. He still owns his home today. This was the start of building the foundation for our family's generational wealth. In 2003, my brother Angel was born. In 2007, my brother Max was born. In case you weren't counting, that's a family of 6, living on one single income. You might be wondering, what was your mom doing? Well, she was raising us. Like I previously mentioned, this was a cultural norm for us. Being born and raised in Las Vegas meant attending CCSD schools from K through 12th grade. My experience was very different from what they portrayed on TV and movies. I definitely had my fair share of feeling invisible and confused. I honestly never felt like the curriculum I learned represented people like me, unless it was skimmed through to celebrate America's history. I remember always wondering why the houses in the textbooks with the white picket fences never looked like mine, or what the American foods like lasagna, meatloaf, and pie were during fraction units, or what it was like to travel on a plane for vacation, as they would show in our math textbooks during a unit of measurement. All of these things were new to me because they weren't common in my culture. Like Javen and Lenz mentioned in their article, I'm embarrassed to speak a different language. It often felt like I was pressured to reject my heritage to fit in with the American societal norms. This was very true. I always felt like I had to pretend to be part of these white societal norms in school because I was almost ashamed to actually say the reality of the life that I was living. To add to this feeling of being disconnected from my own identity throughout my K through 12 journey, the majority of my teachers were white. I only had 2 Latino teachers in elementary school and 1 in high school. I also only had 1 black teacher in middle school. Not having teachers that represented me or my peers was really difficult. I often felt targeted for my academic and behavioral challenges, and having undiagnosed ADHD made it no better. In middle school, I was often labeled as a troubled kid because I often talked back and made not so great choices. I was even told by my 7th grade teacher once that I would never achieve anything great in life, simply because I was talking when she had her back turned to the class. She was horrible. She often lost her temper and yelled in mine and other peers and other classmates' faces. In middle school, I was also constantly being suspended for things as minor as being a few minutes late to school in the morning. In my defense, I had no control over that. My mom had to drop my younger siblings off at school before me. Like we learned in Hing's 2014 article, Race, Disability, and the School to Prison Pipeline, even just 1 suspension can lead students into the school to prison pipeline, especially when you're always being made to believe that you're a horrible student. If it wasn't for this one specific teacher in middle school who believed in me even when I did not believe in myself, I truly believe the trajectory of my life would have been completely different. His name is Mr. DeVore. He saw beyond my academic and behavioral issues and really connected with me like no teacher ever had before. He constantly asked me about my day, complimented my art, and sense of fashion, and never stopped encouraging me to try my best in class, even if I wasn't so confident in my answers. He even chose me as Student of the Month one time, and I got to have donuts with the dean, and my mom and baby brother attended. This really meant a lot to me in that time. His kindness and encouragement really changed something within me. I started to actually enjoy going to school and began to make lots of academic progress. I went from being a straight F student to earning A's and B's in one school year. Because I saw my worth and potential, I realized how much I no longer wanted to be in trouble. I remember begging my parents to allow me to attend a different zoned high school, just so I can have a fresh start. To my surprise, my parents listened and allowed me to do so. I ended up attending a high school 15 minutes away from my house. It was located in Green Valley. This was a complete culture shock to me. I went from attending a majority Latino and Black school to being surrounded by white people. The communities around the high school were like those depicted in the textbooks. I once again felt different. This time, I really felt like I didn't belong. I remember just not fitting in. My parents couldn't afford to buy us the new backpacks and the latest fashion trends, but my peers, on the other hand, flaunted their wealth any chance that they got. High school was genuinely a blur. I just wanted to get it over with. When it did end, though, I realized how big my graduating class actually was, which was shocking, because I swear I had never seen many of these people in my classrooms before. Through high school, it really felt like I had classes with the same group of people from freshman year all the way to senior year. Right after high school, I enrolled into community college. I went straight into community college because my GPA wasn't the best to get into UNLV. So I started in community college and then went on from there. When I originally went into college, I thought that I wanted to be a criminal investigator. I was obsessed with the murder show Dexter and thought that being a blood spatter analyst would be cool. I earned my associate's degree in criminal justice, then transferred to UNLV. During my courses at UNLV, I took an anthropology class, and it completely changed my interest. Soon after this, I changed my major from criminal justice to anthropology. What I loved the most about anthropology was learning about humans, cultures, and diversity, really. It is interesting to learn how we are all so drastically different, yet we are all part of the same species. We're human. I graduated with my bachelor's in anthropology with a minor in criminal justice at UNLV. And honestly, I thought that was it. It wasn't until I was job hunting and my friend suggested that I try substitute teaching that I really got acquainted with education and teaching. Substitute teaching taught me so much about children, how they think, how they act, how they feel, and how valid their feelings are at such a young age. And I really fell in love with it. I really fell in love with shaping young minds, so much so that, well, now I'm here. I'm pursuing a master's in teaching. One of the most reoccurring topics that I have learned through this program is how much equity matters in a classroom. As a teacher, it's easy to claim to be colorblind and unbiased. As quoted in the National Association for the Education of Young Children, 2019, even if you think yourself as unbiased, reflect on the impact of racism, sexism, classism, elitism, heterosexism, xenophobia, and systems of oppression affecting you and the people around you. Identify where your varied social identities have provided strengths and understanding based on your experiences of both injustice and privilege. Equity in a classroom does not mean treating students the same. If this is the case, you're really doing your students an injustice. Equity means that as a teacher, you take the time to really get to know every student that walks through your door. You learn about their unique backgrounds and needs and find a way to incorporate those factors in the classroom daily. Even something as simple as learning how to pronounce all of your students' names correctly can make the world of a difference in a student's life. And this is something that we actually learned in CME 705 in the video, What's in Your Name? A lot actually, by Vox. In embracing every hue, using our narratives to cultivate healing, Darius Phelps states, We must start their stories and identities with excellence and recognize that knowing about the cultures of other people teaches them to respect, love, and live in harmony with others who don't look or know the world as they do. Curriculum should never be a one-size-fits-all because the majority of our students, especially in CCSD, do not identify with the white societal norms. And I understand curriculum, especially state-mandated curriculum, is not something that we can change completely, but that shouldn't stop us from finding and incorporating culturally responsive resources into our daily lessons. One way that we could do this is through literature, using Rudine Sims Bishop's framework of mirrors, windows, and sliding glass doors. This is something that I first learned about in CIE 553, Teaching Elementary Social Studies. This framework allows students to reflect on their own lives, view different worlds and lived experiences, and be immersed into worlds vastly different from their own through the characters in books. Through readings and discussions of different perspectives, for example, immigration, since that is something very prevalent in my life, students can begin to understand the true realities and challenges that immigrants and their families face through the characters and stories, like in the book Esperanza Rising. By doing this, we allow students to break through their cultural bubbles and learn how to appreciate and empathize with cultures and lived experiences different from their own. In CIE 501, Children's Literature and Elementary Curriculum, I learned that some educators refuse to teach or discuss diverse topics due to discomfort or the lack of knowledge about them. As Berlin states in his article, Confronting the Lies I Tell Myself, my whiteness signaled that I was not only the outsider, but also a member of the powerful elite who, to protect their position in the social hierarchy, consistently abused and ignored women, men, and children in our city and in our nation who looked like my students and their families. This is why I believe that the act of self-reflection as a teacher is crucial, because diversity is not something that we should deprive our students from learning. Diversity should be celebrated because this is how we bring communities together and where people find a sense of belonging within a community. Grainier's 2022 academic journal, Elementary School Teachers' Openness to Cultural Diversity and Professional Satisfaction, there is an impactful quote that I really resonate to. The cultural gap between a student and a teacher can impact the teacher's attitude towards the student. This is something I believe I face in middle school. When teachers do not understand their students, they can begin to negatively stereotype and discipline them for minor inconveniences. This usually also leads to teachers lowering expectations for students, which ultimately affects students of color the most. In Maroon's 2021 article, Teachers Don't Really Encourage It, we learned that when teachers lower expectations, this allows students to internalize false perceptions of low ability, which ultimately damages their self-efficacy and motivation to pursue academic challenges. This is why setting expectations from day one and utilizing things like the multi-tiered system of supports is crucial to help meet every student's academic and behavioral needs. In all, the classrooms we choose to create shape the trajectories and decisions of each student we impact. In my classroom, I will ensure that the practices of systemic racism are non-existent. Because like we learned in this course, systemic racism continues to affect the students in our classrooms today in many ways, such as the classes that they are placed in. For example, a lot of minority students don't have the opportunities to be placed in classes like AP classes or be placed in programs like the GATE program. Oh, another way that racism takes place in our classrooms is through interactions that students have with one another. So just because teachers don't see these racist actions happening, or they choose to overlook and ignore the placement of their students, that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It quite frankly does exist, and it is affecting our students because we are depriving them of opportunities that they should be able to have. Like Latasha Armstrong mentions in her academic article, the incorporation of culturally responsive education materials not only supports students' understanding of self and peers, but it enhances their connection to learning and expands their imagination and awareness of what is possible. This quote is extremely impactful to me because I am living proof of what is possible. I am a child of immigrants who is at the finish line of attaining a master's degree. And that is all thanks to my parents for their bravery of coming to this country, and for my teacher, Mr. DeVore, who really encouraged me when I didn't really see the light at the end of the tunnel. I would like to take these final moments of my presentation to give thanks to all the professors that I have worked alongside with and I have learned from throughout my master's degree program. I seriously cannot thank you guys enough for everything that you guys have provided me with, all the resources, all of the information that I will be able to use in my future classrooms. I really do pride myself in believing that I will be an equitable teacher, that hopefully students will one day look back at and feel grateful for. So thank you again so much. It really does mean a lot.